Hey everyone, I hope you have your hot pockets ready because we are building a full Angular authentication system today. So anyhow, authentication is one of those things that can be a really big pain in the ass because there's so many different things you have to worry about, such as allowing people to log in with their social accounts, also custom email, also if you want to provide anonymous logins. Unfortunately, there's things like auth and Firebase that automate a lot of that stuff for us. But still, integrating it, for example, Firebase, which is what we're going to be working with, into an Angular project, whether that be Angular 2 or 4 coming up, can still be a little bit tricky. So that's what we're going to be focusing on in this tutorial. Now first, check out courseetcetera.com. We have a lot of other Angular related content. And also let's go ahead and switch to the browser to check out a full example of what we're going to be building today. Okay, so here is the app. Let's go ahead and click login with Facebook. We'll see this pops up. It logs us in automatically. Ordinarily, if this is the first time, they would have to grant the app permission from Facebook. Click log out, and we can see the nice smooth page transitions that occur. I log in with Google, same thing. And it's pulling the name, by the way, from their Facebook and Google information. And Angular Fire, or Firebase rather, provides us with that property. Email, custom login email here. So if I log in real quick, same thing, it'll work. I've already joined with that particular email. We could also create an email sign up. So this works as well. There's also error reporting. So if I just hit anything random, it gives us a nice error that animates in. The email address is badly formatted. By the way, this also is responsive and works pretty well on mobile phones as well. So, all right, let's go ahead and get started. All right, guys, so the first step here is to visit the written tutorial page for creating the full Angular authentication system with Firebase. And I say that because I'm not going to be covering this step right here in this video tutorial. So it's already covered here at the written tutorial, and this is the part where you need to set up the Firebase project. Coming right from here, starting all the way down just to here is what I want you to do and follow along in the video, in the written tutorial, simply because I've already done it in a video tutorial format and it's kind of a pain to edit out the credentials in the video. So just come to this page and it'll show you exactly what you need to do. It's just a few steps, takes like 3 minutes, no big deal. Okay, so we're gonna start off right here in the video tutorial. So in your console of choice, I'm using Commander, by the way, here on Windows 10. I'm going to type in ng new. And by the way, you want to make sure that you have these prerequisites that are mentioned here before you begin, which is right up here, which is Node.js and NPM, the Angular command line interface for creating Angular projects. You can click on these if you don't have them and you can install them. And then also of course, a Firebase account. So let's go back here. So ng new and then the name of our Angular app. I'm going to name mine my auth app. Now, because this takes a little bit of time, I'm going to pause and then come back. All right, now it's finished on my end. So now what I want to do is cd into the my auth app folder and npm install Angular Fire 2 as well as Firebase and save it to our package.json. All right, now that that is done, clear this out. We'll go back to our code editor of choice. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and we want to head on over inside of our my auth app project, or whatever you named it, into the source app, and then app module.ts. So we need to import the Angular Fire module from Angular Fire 2, which we included with npm. And so to do that, simply import Angular Fire module from Angular Fire 2. And also we have to export a constant, which is our Firebase config. And this is where I mentioned in the tutorial to save the information to these 5 properties. So go ahead and paste in your credentials here. And it doesn't really matter if this is exposed to the public, so I don't even know why I care. Because really, if people have this, it's not that big of a deal as long as you've tied down the settings in Firebase and you don't have read, write, publicly accessible. I just don't trust myself and enough to remember to, after this tutorial to tie everything down. So it's no big deal really. And then also in our imports, we have to add this line right here. Put a comma and then save. And by the way, don't forget to fill out this information here and save it. And then we're gonna go back to our console, and now we have to generate our components. So we're gonna have 4 different components. One's gonna be a login component where it's going to feature the social logins and a button for logging in via email and also signing up. We're gonna have the email login component where they log in with their email if they're not using a social provider, a sign up component where they could sign up via email, and then also a members area component where we're just gonna have a simple interface, and it's gonna demonstrate how to protect a members component and route. All right, so to do that, it's very simple with the Angular client, or the CLI rather, command line. I always say client, it's a bad habit. We're gonna ng generate component login, and we're gonna do this a few more times. So I'm gonna hit the up arrow key, change this here to email, sign up, and then members finally. Okay, so let's clear this out. We'll go back to our editor. You can see it also added our login components for us automatically, as well as, well, that's it. And then also what we want to do is go to our login here, and we're going to focus on this first. So login component.ts, and we have to add in a few imports here. So first, we're going to add in, after on init, host binding. Now we're including that now, but we're not going to be utilizing that until later when we work in router animations. But we're just including that for now because I don't want to have to keep on going back and forth when we do different things. And then we're going to import these 3 lines here. By the way, let me hit Control B to get rid of the files on the side. Now, of course, this router animations file doesn't exist yet. But basically going through these, we're importing all the necessary Angular Fire specific functions that we need in order to get this working right here. We're going to need the router because if we click on certain links, we want to show like the login, for instance, for email or the sign up. So we use the router. And then this is just going to be in the future a function specific animation that we will create for our animations here. And we're going to be including that in a router animations file. Okay, next we want to move on to the component decorator, which is right here. And again, this is just specific for the future animation stuff. So we just type in animations, and we're going to pass in move in. And then we also add host, and we open this up in squiggly braces like that, and find that to an empty string here. All right, that looks good. And then now we need to focus on the component class. All right, so the way I'm going to do this, instead of typing everything just word for word, it's going to take a long time. So I'm going to refer to the written tutorial and just paste in certain blocks of code, and I'll do a very brief explanation about what is happening there. So the first step, I'm going to take this constructor here, which is empty, and I'm going to paste in this information right here. So first we have an empty error property, and I'll type any, and this will basically allow us to bind any type of error that's returned from Firebase if a social login provider fails for whatever reason. Okay, and then inside the constructor, we have dependency injection on our Angular Fire and router. Inside of here, once the app loads, which this is an area where you can declare any type of information or anything to happen once your app first loads, we have this AF auth, which is defined right here, and we're going to subscribe, and it's going to check if auth, or in other words, if they are currently logged in, then we're just going to send them over or redirect them to our members page. And this is going to be defined in a routes file later on, this URL right here. And then also, I'm going to go ahead and paste in 2 different methods. So we're going to do this outside of the constructor. All right, so we have the first one, which is login for Facebook and login for Google. Now these methods will be called once a user clicks on our Facebook button or a Google button. And all that's happening here in both of them is it's calling the login method from Angular Fire, and we're passing to it in this instance, we're calling Facebook, and the method's going to be a pop-up. This could be a redirect if you wanted to completely redirect the whole browser window essentially to Facebook instead of popping up another window. I like the pop-up better just because it persists your current app and it doesn't leave. And then we're saying then, if the success, when we send them over to members. If not, we bind our error property to the response, which is right here. Same thing going on right here. And that's all that this particular component is. So very simple, we'll save it. We're not gonna worry about this. We'll define this later on and this error will go away. All right, so moving on, we also wanna go to the HTML. And again, referring to the written tutorial, I'm gonna paste in this information right here. And all that's happening is we have this form container we'll define later in CSS, and it's just kind of like this white container. We have a lock graphic here. By the way, you can download the assets for this. You can check them out over at GitHub. I'll probably provide a separate zip file download just for these assets so you can put them in your assets, create the images folder and place them in here. We have like 5 or 6 images. And then also we have an ngIf conditional. If the error property exists, then show what the error is. And then we have 2 buttons here for login and our login Google method. Very simple, login with Facebook or Google. And then also we have a router link tied to button element. You could do that with an A element as well for email. And then also if they don't have an account at all and they want to sign up via email, they can go to the sign up page, which we'll define here momentarily. So we'll save that. And to toggle this bar off, by the way, I'm hitting Control B. And now let's focus on the sign up component. So let's come down here to sign up. We'll go to the component. And this is very similar for the imports. All right, so all we have up here is the standard Angular Fire member methods or functions rather that we're importing, the router. We have a second one called fall in, and that's something where we're gonna bind that to the error just to show you that we can make the error element itself animate in as well. And again, this doesn't exist yet, so we don't have to worry about that. I'm gonna copy and paste in the stuff that we need for our component decorator right there. And then also, this one's a little bit more simple than the last one. All I'm gonna do is get rid of this. This time we have a state and we're binding to nothing currently, and we're gonna place that on the error element for animation. And then again, we have the error property here. Nothing goes in our constructor over here. And then finally, we do have a method, and that's going to be, we'll split it right here, called onSubmit. And so once a person goes to submit the sign-up form, which will simply be an email and a password, it calls in this af.auth create user method, and we pass in the email, the password. If it's successful, go ahead and send them to login. However, I think if it is successful, it sends them to members. So I'm gonna change that right there. I'm gonna update that tutorial. And then if not, like if there's some sort of like validation error or any other type of error, and by the way, I have console log, don't really need that. And then this error, we're binding it to the response here. All right, so we'll save that and then go into the HTML. And this is where we want to paste in our form. So again, notice we're reusing this div class form container, and that way we can really animate the entire interface that's appearing, which I'm sure you already saw how that works. And so, yeah, very similar stuff going on here. We have the error, except this time I just wanted to show you how you can animate individual elements, just kind of including that nugget of information. And then we have our form, very simple, just a text, password, and a submit. And so, of course, we're using different types of event binding here on the ng model, name, password. Everything's pretty simple to understand here. All right, we'll save that. And we're going to continue on with the email. So this is the email login page. And again, pretty much the same imports as the last module. We'll save that. And then we're also, this is very similar. And we'll move on to the component class. Again, everything's going to be real similar. So I'm going to paste the entire contents of what we have going on there. And 1 second, let me leave ng on init there. All right, there we go. And basically, again, we're checking here if they're currently logged in or not. We're sending them over here in the constructor to members. I don't believe I included that in the last one, although you can if you want. And then again, on submit, the only difference this time is we're just calling login instead of create user. And then we're sending them to members, otherwise giving them an error. We'll save that. We'll go to the HTML. Again, very similar. We'll save that here. And again, I'm not even gonna really explain what's happening here. It's very similar to the last component. And then finally, let's go to the members component. So we'll go to the component here, and I'm going to paste this in. This is all standard stuff. The only thing here, we have a third one, and a third and final animation specific function. Now we're going to call it move in left. And that's going to take the content and just to show you how cool it looks to have the interface kind of fall into place in different elements doing different things. And let's go ahead and real quickly, we'll include those as well in the component decorator. So we have these three. And by the way, you can declare all these animations in line right here if you wanted to, but it would make it really long. So this kind of just organizes things a lot better. And then finally, this is also a quite simple component code down here. And all we have is a name. Now this is different because in this component, we want to show the person's name if they're currently logged in, which the only way they're going to access this page is if they're logged in. And then we're setting this name, this property here, to this response, this auth object. And then we have a logout. And in the HTML, the template, we're going to have a button that allows them to log out, and we'll call this method. And it's very simple. To log out with Angular Fire, it's just this AF auth log out. That's it. Go ahead and delete this if you want. And then we just send them back to the login page. Okay, now let's go ahead to the HTML here. And I'm gonna copy that as well, paste it. And it's very simple. We just have our fallen here bound to state, and this is for animation. So the header will kind of just, it'll just fall up rather. And then we have a button where we're binding the click event to the logout method. And then we're using interpolation on the name property, which also includes auth and the display name right here. So the display name is the property that includes the person's name. Now, if they are logging in via email, it's going to be null. So it'd be up to you to make this not show or just say hey with an exclamation point if that is the case. I decided not to do that though. And then we just have this little filler graphic here for a few blank lines of text. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And now we want to head on over real quick. That was by the way, the heavy legwork in terms of most of the coding. We still have some more to do though. But real quickly, I'm going to head over to the app.component.html. And in here, I'm just going to gut everything and put the router outlet. And this is where everything is just kind of, all of our components are going to go right within here, depending on which page they're at. And now we have to create an auth guard service. And that's what's going to be used to protect our members page and any other route that you want to protect against whether or not a person is logged in or not. So let's go ahead and create that file here. So I'm going to click on just somewhere real quickly. Yeah, make sure you're in one of these files, and we're going to make sure you're in the app folder. We'll create that. And so the name of that is auth.service.ts. And I'm going to real quickly copy and paste everything that I have here. And we're importing just the can activate and router from router. Now, can activate is really the core of how this works, and I'll describe that in a second. Also, Angular Fire auth. We have injectable, observable, and a few reactive extension operators that we're importing. So we have right here our constructor we're passing in our necessary dependency injection, and then here comes can activate. So it basically decides if a designated route can be accessed, such as our members component, and we'll define that later, by the way. But it's checking for authentication from right here, this.auth, which is defined here through dependency injection. And it's saying if it is not authenticated, then we're sending them to the login route. Okay, so let's go ahead and create the routes. So we'll come back here, create a new file, app.routes.ts. And then I'm going to paste in from the tutorial the contents of this file. And before creating this, I had that the members called other. So let me fix that real quick. There we go. I'll update this, by the way. And the only thing to really note here is just this right here. So we have our members path with our members component, and we've added the can activate right here, passing in our authguard service. So on any other pages, like in your app that you're creating, for example, if you wanted them to be password, or not password, but protected against whether or not a user is logged in, you would add can activate on the route. Very, very simple. Okay, so let's save that. And now we're gonna go back to our app module.ts, and we have to make sure we import our authguard and our routes. So let me just come over here. I'm gonna copy that, and let's go back here. And then we just need to add these two as imports, and then also add routes here in our imports. Now, if you're watching this at a time, for instance, when the Angular CLI allows for generating services, then you could just use it. You could have used it to generate those services rather than doing it manually, and it would have added these for us. But yeah, we're not in the future yet. So also providers, we have to add our authguard. All right, so we'll save it. And now let's go ahead. Now that is the bulk of the coding basically to make the login functionality work. Now everything from here on is just for aesthetics and animation. So real quickly, let's create a router animations.ts file, and we'll do that right here in the app folder. So router.animations.ts, and this is going to be a lot of code here, but it's all specific to animation. So we have our three animation functions: move in, fall in, and move in left. And I have to say, it was kind of difficult getting all these working correctly in terms of trying to figure out the correct properties for the CSS and transforming. So it was a lot of trial and error trying to get these all right, because the animation would appear jerky. For instance, if position fixed wasn't added, it took me a while to figure that out. But again, if you're creating these on your own, just know there is a lot of experimentation, especially if you've never done it before. And by the way, I do want to give a shout out to an individual for creating a post that helped with creating these router animations. And that is right here in this tutorial. I've also linked it here. So you can kind of learn more about exactly how all this works if you want to visit that link. Okay, so let's go ahead and save that. And now let's just focus on the remaining CSS here for our different components. Now, not all of them have CSS associated with it, like the email, I don't think has CSS, but we'll see. Let's go ahead to logging component.css. Referring back to the written tutorial, I'm just going to paste in a bunch of rule sets here. Again, it's very simple. We have our lock graphic, we have our Facebook and Google buttons here. Again, I'm just using assets here, SVG files for the logos and such. And I have one media query just to make this a little bit responsive and work on mobile here as well. Kind of just getting rid of the icons and all that show up. Also our members here coming down. I'm going to paste in some CSS right there. Simple stuff. And then also in our main styles.css down here in the app folder, we'll go ahead and copy and paste that right here. So a fair amount of CSS. This is the main CSS. Again, I tried to make the design nice, but also simple enough to where there's not a ton of CSS that you would have to overwrite if you wanted to reuse this project. All right, so let's save it. Let's go to index.html. I'm going to import foundation as well as include a polyfill to make our animations work on browsers that otherwise would not support the animations built into Angular. So we have our, let's see up here, the top one is Foundation Flex Grid. I didn't really use it much. I think I may have used like one property from it, but I'm just including it just in case you wanted to expand on that. And then also our web animations polyfill right here on this line. We'll save that. And then finally, I used, let's see, codepen.io to create or to find a loader graphic. So the div for that is div class equals loading. Close that div. All right, and then save. Okay, so with any luck, if we run this, it's going to work. So let's give it a shot. Let's go to our console here. By the way, make sure you did include that images folder. Otherwise you'll get broken images. That's what just happened to me. So I had to get those images imported. And once this is ready to go, we go to our browser, get this over here situated at localhost 4200. I'm going to zoom out just a little bit so we can see the full thing here. And there we go. So let's go ahead. I'll try to click login with Facebook. Now I've already authorized the app, so it's not going to show me, any of like there's a button basically where you have to give the app permission. So let me hit log out here. We'll try login with Google. Same thing. I've already authorized the app, so it's not going to ask me. Log in with email. Let's just do like a random email. Yep, the email address is badly formatted. So if I try to log in with one that I know works, try logging in there. There we go. And then also creating an email. Again, we have validation showing up here. And I can just create, let me think here, contact@designcourse.com. I know I don't have that one in the Firebase project. Just to show you real quickly that it's not there, I just have a few different emails here. And you can see contact@designcourse is not there. So if I go back, create my account, it's already in use. Maybe that's because oh, that's right, because of yeah, I have it. This email is attached, I think, to my Gmail possibly. So let me try a different one real quick. Contact@designcoder.io, that's an old site. There we go. So now if I refresh this, we'll see contact@designcoder.io. Very awesome stuff. All right, so hopefully you enjoyed that tutorial. If you liked it, make sure you subscribe here at Coursetro's YouTube channel. Also, check out Coursetro.com because we have a lot of other Angular related content such as courses and free tutorials. All right, I'll see you next time.